Hello, crypto boys and ghouls. Welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play-to-earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands.
Now that's a professional introduction. Thank you to my guy Aftersound for blessing us with those smooth vocals, and I appreciate you. And I would be remiss if I didn't give you a little courtesy impersonation back in return. Here's my Aftersound take from the Aftersound channel. This isn't the channel for hopium, and we don't give financial advice on this channel. But if we did, back the bus up and buy SPS. So, in all seriousness, Aftersound, love the content. If you haven't subscribed to Aftersound on YouTube, what are you doing? Go check him out. Go give him a subscribe. I'm going to leave a link in the video description below. You got to check him out on his live streams. His content daily on Splinterlands is the best in the business. Definitely check him out and make sure you catch the After Dark show with Aftersound and Darkest Night, the best show in the business. You're going to definitely want to check that out. And if you're at Splinterfest this coming weekend, make sure you give a shout out to Aftersound and Darkest Night. Buy him a beer, tell him how much you appreciate him. And yeah, let's hop into this video. We're going to be talking about countering the Coerul Lurker. And this has been, I guess, kind of an interesting discussion because this team is running rampant here in the Splinterlands meta over the last, well, since Rift Watchers was released. And Bulldog made a video on this particular, I guess, neutral taunt monster that shows just how powerful it is, especially when used in combination with Scargor. And we're going to spend some time in today's video giving you a dozen reasons or ways to counter the Coerul Lurker meta team that you're seeing going around in the leagues right now. And we're going to go into a little bit of a PowerPoint. I'm going to share my take on how you can counter this team with varying monsters ranging from levels from bronze to gold all the way up to diamond. So you'll have the tools in your toolbox to go against this team and get a win if you see it coming. So the first answer to the Coerul Lurker Enrage team right now, with all the dodging and missing and gnashing of teeth from your opponents or yourself if you happen to be on the wrong end of this battle, is, well, it's easy, it's Kitty. And unfortunately, 98% of the players in Splinterlands don't have access to Kitty and True Strike, so we'll just leave Kitty here at number 1 and say that's fine and dandy if you have Kitty. But if you don't, here are the other more realistic options for you to tackle the Coerul Lurker. The first here is a Kraken Turtle team with Tidebiter and True Strike. And this team is also a wild team, and it's not an inexpensive team to field, but it is very viable as a counter to the Coerul Lurker. And let me show you a quick battle replay of a battle using this particular team. So you can see here, the Kraken team has True Strike. We have the Tidebiter, which is going to always hit the Coerul Lurker regardless of the speed or the blind or the dodge. And the Enraged Kraken as well here, even though it doesn't have any necessary benefits around swiftness, it's still going to have, once it gets enraged here, approximately 8 health, or excuse me, 8 speed. And once it gets 8 speed, it's going to have a chance to hit the Coerul Lurker or also retaliate on the Coerul Lurker. And because the Enrage Kraken has a double heal and a cleanse, it's going to probably outlast the Coerul Lurker here. Even if it didn't, again, you've got the Tidebiter there doing the True Strike damage and the Reflection Shield blocking the Thorns. So it's just a matter of time before the Coerul Lurker goes away, and then it's pretty much mop-up time for the rest of this team just to take down the remaining Scargor supporting cast here. So that is certainly one answer to the Coerul Lurker team. And if we go back here to option number 3, Well, it's the Kraken again as another option to use, but this time you don't need the full Kraken Turtle team. You just need basically a cleanse, a heal, and swiftness again, and just the retaliate. So you don't need the Tidebiter for the True Strike. Let's see this team in action and how it is able to defeat the Coerul Lurker. So again, we're just relying on the retaliate and the enrage from the Kraken to be able to hit the Coerul Lurker and take it out, because the Coerul Lurker generally does not have a heal or a cleanse with it necessarily. The retaliates and the sporadic hits there with the 9-speed enrage Kraken will get through here, and because we have a heal and a repair from the Modality Guardian, it's going to be enough for the Kraken to survive and to defeat the Coerul Lurker. And then again, once the Coerul Lurker is gone, it's pretty much just mop-up time for the remaining team here, because the supporting cast of the Coerul Lurker speed and rage team is not super strong by themselves. They're pretty vulnerable. Now, I know you don't want to see any more options like Kitty and Kraken because that's not available to many of us. So other options here to consider is option number 4. I know it's another big card, but it's Waka. And I just put Waka in here because, well, we don't see Waka used very often, but you can use Waka here. You can use the Thorns with a heal, and then you're using the True Strike here with the Dampier Stalker, which is probably enough, but Waka just adds the poison as well, which will get the job done faster. And if you even want to work faster than poison and True Strike, you can add a second True Strike here with the Gorladon in the reach position behind either Lord A or the Onyx Sentinel with those thorns and getting healed up there. So that's an option. You don't have to use Waka though. You can actually use a budget death team. And that budget death team could look something like this. It's Thaddeus Brood with an Ever-Hungry Skull, backed up by a Scavell Hireling with Repair, and then your True Strike coming in with a Dampier Stalker, getting the job done and taking out, over time, the Coerul Lurker, and basically counting on the Ever-Hungry Skull and the Scavell Hireling's Repair to keep the Dampier Stalker firing in your line intact while you take out that Coerul Lurker with True Strike. So this is a budget death team that can be used at the bronze level because you get the thorns, you get the shield, you get the repair, and the True Strike all at bronze. Now, option number 6 here is a Rift Watcher fire team. It's also using Scargor here. It's not required though. You can use pretty much any fire summoner. You're using the Septic Slime here with True Strike at the diamond level or champion level, and you're backing up its own self-heal with a repair from a hireling or a flame monkey, and probably you could put in a beetle queen or a Tortesian chief for a heal, a secondary heal there, just to make sure the True Strike on the Septic Slime gets through. With the Enrage with Scargoyer, the damage is going to be a little bit higher. You're going to be at roughly 5 damage there. So if you didn't have Scargor, if you had Tarsa, you'd be at 4, for example. So just maybe take a little bit longer. That's why the secondary heal might be useful to get through the Coerul Lurker. Now, option number 7 is a modern Earth team that can be used at the gold level. In this example, we used Fernheart. It's not a requirement. You can use any Earth summoner, really. You're basically putting some beefy tanks up front for Earth. The Pelacor Mercenary is an example, followed by the Bramble Pixie, both with self-heals. And then you're using True Strike from Hunter Jarks to take out the taunt from the Coerul Lurker and get rid of that there with 5 archery damage over time. Option number 8 is a modern water option at the diamond level. In this case, we're using Kelia, and we're putting Bakjira up front and just putting Tidebiter behind Bakjira for the True Strike to take care of the Coerul Lurker over time. Now, you're also going to want to have pretty sustainable supporting cast behind the Tidebiter here. that's going to be probably being hit by Countess Sanash and stuff, because it's going to take a little time for the Tidebiter to get through the Coerul Lurker by itself. So things like Oceanus and such would be probably wise to include here. Now, option number 9 is a modern dragon team here. You could use Quicks with Jin Chwala at the diamond level, followed by a repair with the Scavell Hireling. Jin Chwala is going to have Thorns as well as True Strike and Enrage, so this will get the job done as well, as long as you can keep Jin Chwala upright. Now, option number 10 here is using the ability of Scattershot to eliminate the speed support. And then you also want to make sure you have something up front to be able to sustain your line here, something with Thorns ideally, and a heal or a repair. So using a Chaos Dragon works really well for the Scattershot ability. You can also use Yasik here to get around the Coerul Lurker as well as an option. Now, option 11 is not one that I've specifically used, but you could use Dispel here to dispel the Enrage off the Coerul Lurker to bring it down to at least a hittable level. You're still going to have to deal probably with multiple swiftnesses or slows and a blind, but at least without the Enrage, it should be achievable to hit the Coerul Lurker for most teams. It might take some time, but using Dispel from all of these different monsters, such as the Venari Wavesmith, River Helendale, Goblin Psychic, Venari Crystalsmith, Venari Bonesmith, the Whelp Herder, Venari Spellsmith, Spirit Hoarder, etc. Lots of options here to use Dispel to take away that buff of Enrage. Now, the last option here of this dozen options to get rid of the Coerul Lurker is going to be using passive Thorns damage through a summoner such as Mylor here, and that is using a combination of beefy tanks along with a heal repair to get that sustain to eventually grind the Coerul Lurker down through Thorns. And you're going to want to definitely make sure that you have the sustain to deal with that, because it's going to take a little while to do that. So this is not something I would necessarily recommend. I haven't specifically tried this team either, but in theory it should work, as long as you don't have too many, as long as you don't have to deal with too much auxiliary damage from things like Countess Sanash, etc. So there you go, 12 quick and easy, well, maybe not easy necessarily. Some of these teams and monsters are not necessarily easy to obtain, but these are ways that you can counter the meta here that is Coerul Lurker. It can be frustrating to be on the receiving end of this team, especially when you're not prepared for it, as you basically sit there helpless and watch your monsters flounder and miss endlessly, and you end up losing. But these options here should provide tools in your toolbox to allow you to at least have a chance when you meet the Coerul Lurker to get that win in, and keep them at your ready here, ready to use, especially if you see your opponent spamming the Coerul Lurker team. So I hope this video has been informational. Hopefully it has given you some insight and some options to consider. And until next time, keep stacking those stats.
That's entertainment.